What's up, everybody? It's Rishi from Prilo.ai, which is the #1 CTSO preparation platform to help you dominate DECA. So look, you've already conquered regionals and you've already conquered states as well, which means that you are ready for ICDC. However, so are your competitors because they've proven that they're not just doing this for the fun of it. It wasn't just chance alone that brought them to make ICDC, so judges are going to be expecting way more from you this time around. At this level, the difference between making finals and also going home empty-handed just comes down to a few things. Now in this video, I want to talk about some of those factors that can be make or break for whether or not you place at ICDC. And I also want you to use this video in conjunction to the states video because I talked about a lot of aspects of creativity which are directly applicable for ICDC. These make or break topics are going to be the main topics of this video, so I'm just going to get them out of the way first. You want to have a flawless flow, incorporate numerical statistics, have creativity as I've been preaching from the start, have a deep career cluster knowledge, and also have a high test score. To hit it off, let's talk about the ICDC mindset shift. ICDC is not just some small step up from states, but rather on a completely different level. Judges are expecting you to sound like a flowing business professional rather than a robotic high schooler that just learned all the definitions the night before the roleplay. And you're also going to be going up against regions like Ontario that take up a majority of the podium every single year. Here's some of the biggest mistakes that competitors make at ICDC. The first one is using gimmicks instead of real strategy. Judges, who are often business professionals at this level, are very easily able to see through any flashy ideas that have no substance. And this goes back to the fact that now it's not regionals anymore, right? You have to have way more reasonable ideas, and it comes from having a very strong grasp of the career cluster knowledge that you are set with from your event. Next, there's giving generic answers. We talked about this in the last video, but again, it's very important for me to reiterate that if there's something that you're able to come up within just 30 seconds of thinking, it's probably an idea that many other students, especially at the level like ICDC, were able to think of almost immediately. Here, unique solutions matter more than ever. The last two big mistakes are wasting your preparation time and not having up-to-date industry knowledge. If you're using 5 of the 10 minutes that are for those principal and individual series role plays on, writing long-winded definitions, you're already setting yourself behind compared to all the other ICDC competitors who are creating unique solutions. Now, on top of that, because your judges could be business professionals, if you don't have knowledge on the industry and current trends that are occurring, it's going to be hard for you to stand out. The next thing that I want to do is talk about structuring your role play. So in both the regionals and the states videos, I did talk about how to structure your role play using the DECA acronym for each performance indicator and kind of just going down that list and presenting them in order so then your judge can easily cross off a high score for each performance indicator on the rubric, right? And so the one issue that I kind of saw with that was that many students were already doing this, and it makes it hard for the judge to actually understand the main solution to the problem that's addressed inside the scenario. Students are way more focused on explaining each performance indicator while being able to, add any creative solutions is something that they lack. And so I kind of adapted this method of structuring your role play, and that's by creating your entire presentation to be centered around the solution to the problem that's in the scenario and throwing in the performance indicators out of order or kind of mixed together, but you can keep it clear at the same time. So I'll go into that in this little section. I suggest that you pay a lot of attention to this section. Being easy to follow, clear, and natural are extremely important aspects that you want to consider if you want to be acing your role plays. Now, in terms of the structure of your role plays, the first thing that I want to talk about is the hook. And so you might be thinking of a hook as some sort of introductory sentence that you use in the very beginning of your presentation only, just to kind of give a brief overview of all the topics that you're going to be talking about within the presentation. However, you can also use a hook to introduce even the solutions that you're going to present to the judge. And I'm talking about a hook for each of these solutions that you talk about, right? So, you always want to start with something that grabs the attention and sets up your solution so then the judge remains engaged throughout your entire pitch. Now, instead of just jumping straight to textbook explanations, you can start something like, imagine a world where every customer interaction is personalized. See, just with that one sentence, I changed so much. I was able to have two key words that completely locked in the judge. The first was customer interaction. And so we're already, establishing the persona of the judge as a customer within the solution, and it keeps them engaged because they realize that this is something where they apply. Now, the same thing is for personalization. That's another thing that helps the judge stay engaged because it's where we're actually directly conversing with them and showing that they matter. Now, the second thing that you want to cover within the structure is the what, who, and why. And that's called the business breakdown. So you want to figure out what's the actual problem. Try to go deeper. Don't just restate what's in the prompt. Then you want to figure out who's being affected. Is it investors? Is it customers? Is it employees? Well, that completely also depends on the scenario. And then you want to figure out, why does this all matter in the first place? You want to be able to show the stakes and back it up with numbers. Even if you don't have exact data, making reasonable estimates makes your response sound way more credible. And I kind of alluded to this in the beginning of the video, where I did talk about statistics playing a very important and helpful role, and it could even be a make or break sometimes. I know that might sound like a stretch, but in terms of like that creative aspect, you can really hit it when you do talk about numbers. So apart from just making you sound more credible, makes you sound more believable, and it also makes your solution sound way more well thought out. When you throw out numbers, you're giving the judge like a benchmark for them to understand how successful your solution may be. For example, let's say the judge was like an employee at a company and the solution that you're providing decreases their work time. So instead of saying the words decreases your work time, you could say that it reduces the task completion time by 60%. See, that number is significant, and it puts the number of 60% in their head, and they're like, okay, this is actually a very good solution that does XYZ different processes that eliminates XYZ different errors within my workspace, and it gives me a 60% decrease in my work time. That's so significant, so substantial, and it just reinforces what you're trying to convey to them in the first place through the numbers. Now, before I move on to the third structural component of the role play, I still need to remind you that you have to still be talking about the performance indicators in some way, shape, or form throughout your role play. So the entire framework that I'm giving right now is a little more general because I'm trying to give you space to have those performance indicators, but it's the transitions between those performance indicators that you cover the the application of the performance indicator into some sort of solution to the main problem that's being addressed within the scenario. Now back to that third component, it's the execution strategy. So you want to be able to lay out a clear step-by-step plan of the implementation of your solution. And in terms of those performance indicators that I was just mentioning, that would kind of come within the C and A of that DECA method, where you're connecting and going above and beyond, because this is where you're relating it back to some sort of creative solution that solves the main problem that's addressed in the scenario. And so you want to be able to also show that you understand how businesses actually operate. That's super important, especially when you're playing the role of a business owner. And then for employees, you want to make sure that you're addressing all the needs of your customer. These are just some example personas that I'm throwing out to you, so you really understand what you need to be thinking about when you're creating your execution strategy for those solutions. Then you want to also make sure to tie your responses to industry trends. Judges at this level really love to see it. And I kind of mentioned that before as well. Going through and talking about different trends that are going in the industry helps your judge to stay engaged, because they're like, oh, I heard that in the news as well. I heard this XYZ topic also being discussed. This student really knows what he's talking about and he's well versed in industry knowledge. And again, you want to be throwing those little hooks that we were just talking about in the beginning when you're pitching out these solutions to the judge. Makes them feel way more engaged within your presentation. Do not forget that. Now, the fourth aspect that we're taking into consideration is the visual aids. And so I'm actually not going to talk too much about that in this video because I would actually suggest going to our Prilo mock role plays that are of our Illinois representative and I have completed for the channel. We did a bunch for a ton of events before the states conference, and we plan to update for the events that we haven't done already. So in those videos, we do show a bunch of visual aids in context of some certain scenario, so then you're able to super easily learn how to create good visuals. I suggest watching some of those videos, especially for your event. If it's not out yet, it will be in the next couple of weeks. Now, we still have a lot more to cover, so I'm just gonna also close off this section with the confident close that you wanna have in your roleplay. You kind of just wanna summarize all the topics that you did go over within your presentation, but the most important part is having a call to action. You wanna have a call to action that makes the judge feel like the plan is ready to be implemented today. That is way more engaging for the judge, and it makes them feel like your solution is extremely well thought out. If you structure your roleplay like this, you'll actually leave a lasting impression on your judge rather than blending in with everybody else and having to pray to rely on your test score. I don't think this video is going to be of any use unless I give some examples of creativity applied in the roleplay. I know our Discord is going to be extremely thankful for this, and I know all of our 144 subscribers that we currently have will also be thankful. And personally, I'm thankful for all the people who've been showing us love and also giving us a chance to show you guys that we know how to help you dominate DECA. Let's start with the first example. I'm going to begin by giving the basic response in which a student may say, "We'll run social media ads." See, that as a statement alone will actually cause judges to deduct points because there's no elaboration or creativity involved. However, if we were to spice it up a little bit, then maybe the judges will like it. Now, here is the creative response. So, rather than running standard ads, we'll create an interactive challenge on TikTok or Instagram where users submit videos using our product for a chance to win a limited edition collaboration item. This drives both our virality and leverages user-generated content, making the marketing campaign more authentic and engaging for other users who come across these videos. Now, in a recent campaign by a similar brand, engagement increased by 40% in just 2 weeks, and this could give us the same result. Now, you see what I did there? There were many little aspects that I added in just like a 30 to 40 second time frame, and it would really help increase the amount of points that the judge will give me for a performance indicator. For example, I gave industry-specific terminology like virality and user-generated content. Then I also used numbers. Engagement increased by 40%. Do you see what I mean? We backed the innovative idea with some sort of reasonable data that makes our response stand out without feeling like it's a gimmick. Now let's go to example number 2. I think you guys are gonna really like this one because in one of the mock role plays, it was for either business finance or accounting application series. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but it was a very highly technical role play, and it's very hard to be creative in those sort of role plays. And I know a lot of people are actually asking, how can you be creative when the entire scenario is about calculating some sort of indicator that they use for financial analysis, right? So let's do a creativity example for a highly technical business finance or accounting role play. So let's say you had some basic response where it's like, here are the correct journal entries for each mistake, and I've prepared adjusting entries for the office equipment, right? So that probably addressed some sort of issue that was going on that was numerical. There had to be calculations done. However, we can also provide a creative response with some sort of out-of-the-box solution that's like an add-on to the mathematics that had to be done to solve the issue that was in the technical role play, right? Let's say you say, rather than just correcting these errors, I've created a visual error tracking system that will help us prevent future mistakes and streamline our review process. See, I'm actually making this all up. Do you know what I mean? Like this entire idea, like I didn't actually create anything of substance. I'm just saying it because it sounds fancy and it sounds realistic as well. And it's something that's creative. It's not like I actually have to build it. I have to build out any formulas for the judge. So here, let me keep going. So we created a color-coded error flagging system in which we categorize all the errors into data entry mistakes, misclassifications, and posting errors, with each flagged entry in different colors. And this makes it easier to identify all the different patterns in mistakes over time. See, I extracted the problem that was given in the scenario and I scaled it out, and I tried to be super niche with the sub problems that I was finding, and even some of them that I was just generating off the top of my head that sound fancy and it sounds also realistic. Then I also created an asset depreciation planning system. Since the office equipment has a 3-year useful life, I've also set up a straight line depreciation schedule so we could properly expense it over time rather than just taking a one-time payment hit. See, some of this data, some of this information might not even be inside the roleplay. That's why it's called thinking outside of the box. You're making some things up on the spot, so then it shocks the judge and they're like, oh, this guy really knows what he's talking about. He really understands the scenario, and he also understands different problems that can arise, regarding different situations that are similar in this industry. There are only 2 more things that I have left to cover, one being the role of testing in your score, and then the other being, what do you do if you don't understand what a performance indicator means right before your roleplay? To remain competitive as a prospective finalist at ICDC, I would suggest trying to aim for a score that's in the mid to high 90s. And then apart from that, you want to be using softwares like Prilo's test taking feature, which I'll be demoing at the end of the video, and also flashcard services like Quizlet. And now here is the answer to the dreaded question that everyone has been asking. What do I do if I don't know what a performance indicator means? Now, you will eventually get a performance indicator you don't recognize when you go to ICDC. And this is because they make the role plays harder, especially for those technical events. Now, the key is not panicking and trying to find a logical way to solve it. Now, let's say you had some example performance indicator that was like, discuss the roles and responsibilities of accounting standard setting bodies. Now, a bad response to this would be like, I'm not sure what it is. I think it's about accounting. I'm just going to skip it and hope that the judges don't notice. If you do something like that, at ICDC, you are done for. You are not even getting close to top 15, top 20. Just pack your bags and leave. If you skip a performance indicator, you're done. Unless you got 100 on the test and everyone else failed. But so a better response to this would be, in any business, financial transparency is really critical for investors, regulators, and decision making. Accounting standard setting bodies ensure that the companies follow consistent financial reporting practices, which help to prevent fraud, increase investor confidence, and also make it easier to compare financial statements across businesses. Now, you might be thinking, I just gave you the definition for the performance indicator that I just said I didn't know, right? But all you have to do is just break down this huge chunk of a sentence, right? It says accounting standard setting bodies. If they're saying there's standards and it's for accounting, that means they're probably saying it's something that needs to be standard across the entire industry for all different companies that have these different accounting practices, right? So we can infer that there is something to do with financial transparency because that's what accounting refers to. If you don't understand the simple terms, then it's going to be really hard for you to make inferences, right? So accounting standard setting bodies. So we're assuming that it's some sort of agency that can, confirm that all your data is correct. And that's just an inference that I made because I know what accounting standards are. And that's something that you probably will know if you're getting a performance indicator like this in the first place, right? Now, we can just infer that they're trying to get us to say something about what accounting standards actually prevent from occurring. And that is fraud, and also, decreased and dwindled investor confidence. When there are standards, it increases confidence for everybody. And it also makes it easier to compare different financial statements across different businesses. Because again, it's accounting standards across a bunch of variety of companies. So it's the same standards. And so I use these words, I was able to take little pieces of the sentence and I was able to make an inference about what they might be asking me to discuss further. ICDC is where the best of the best are competing. Winning requires more than just plain old confidence. You need strategic thinking, creativity, an amazing flow, and deep industry knowledge. And the best way to practice this is through using Prilo.ai. Prilo.ai accelerates your learning for DECA regardless of how much time is left until your next career development conference. I'm going to show you a demo of Prilo right now. So here, I'm going to go straight to the roleplay section in which the core feature lies. So what we can do is actually generate a roleplay or enter an official DECA roleplay instead, but I'm just going to show generation for the purpose of the feature. So let's say we do a Principles of Finance event for customer relations. It'll take a couple seconds to generate where I can show you the orientation of each of the performance indicators, the questions, and the prompt. So the performance indicators are right here, bottom right, questions, and then the prompt. So all I have to do is, use this preparation timer so then I can time myself in synthesizing all this information into some notes, and then I'll be able to use that when I start recording. Now, instead of using the example I just generated, I'm going to be using an example from the official DECA website for Accounting Application Series. I've already done a roleplay for this, so all I have to do is just upload the Google Drive link. Once I press start video, now I can just go to Google Drive URL link and press score. It'll just take a minute or two. Okay, so here's the score. I got a 90 on this roleplay. You could see the 21st century skills breakdown and also the performance indicators breakdown right here, just like the rubric shows. Then here, you can also see some AI feedback, a summary of what I kind of talked about, and a detailed breakdown of why I received each score within the different rubric portions. Now we can also see my strengths and my suggestions for improvement. And if I wanted to, I could even export this as a PDF to save it permanently on my local files. Now, apart from that very primary feature for the roleplay scoring, we also have analytics and insights where you can see your average roleplay score and a distribution of all these scores, plus roleplay history where you can see all the past roleplays that you've completed. Now, we also have a chatbot. This is called Prilo GPT. Here we can ask it anything about DECA. For example, I could say, what is a product mix? Here is the response to my inquiry. It answers my question and it has the specific information that I need that DECA wants me to get tested on. And it also keeps it brief, so it's not a whole essay that's being thrown at me just for a small question. Up next is the exams feature. Here we can click on the finance core exam. We can select a different practice mode. For example, I'll go in learn mode, and then we can select how many questions, 50 questions for example, and then all we have to do is just answer a bunch of questions and we'll be able to get responses to these and see the accuracy. So let's say, I look at this and I just select this. Okay, I got it wrong, and I already get to see the response of whether I got it right or wrong. And I can continue with this throughout the rest of the exam. And there are different modes that you can use to help yourself learn the different concepts for DECA. The last two features that we got are the flashcards and the flashcard quiz sections, where you can basically look through an entire reserve of almost 500 words and you can just practice all of them. And then we also have one of our coolest features yet is a Prilo GPT call mode. So you can literally talk to an AI tutor and have an entire discussion hands-free about any different concepts that you are struggling with for DECA. That basically sums up the entire interface. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like down below and comment if you have any suggestions for future videos or any questions after watching this. Now, if you have any longer inquiries, please email us at support@tryprilo.com, whether it be about DECA or Prilo. I'm really rooting for you guys to do well and place at ICDC this year. I'll see you in the next video.